So welcome to everybody who is coming into this conversation with Ryan Boland. Discussion of the demand for biodynamics. Why now? Brings joy to my heart that so many consumers are looking for biodynamic products. I'm Leslie. I'm with Heart and Soil magazine, and we're going to give everyone a minute or two to come in and to the waiting room here. Everyone's getting set up. So with Heart and Soil in our community, we offer you a safe space to come in exactly as you are, exactly where you are in your journey. So come open-hearted, open-minded, enjoy the conversation, ask your questions. And as others are asking their questions, please be respectful of where they are in their journey. Heart and Soil, we are all about the community. We believe that doing this together is the way to up-level each of us, empower each of us on our journeys. So coming within, having the support of a community for conversation, for ideas, for a place to work through different ideas and different topics is very important to us, and we welcome you all here.
Thank you. Thank you for that awesome introduction and presencing Leslie. Leslie Ambrose is the executive editor of Heart and Soul magazine, and she's like builds a foundation and holds it all together for us, and reminds me of what needs to be done and what has been already done. And she reads through every single article and watches every interview that comes through the magazine. And so she's deeply connected with the threads and the pulse of the ethos, and the same thing moves right on into the Soil Summit. She's really been a big integral part of putting this all together. So thank you, Leslie, for who you are and the way you show up.
My pleasure. I love working with you, Natalie. I love working with Heart and Soil and the mission. So I'm a backyard gardener, and I am learning so much. I am not a large scale farmer, but I see the power in this for all levels. So from backyard to large scale, this has been a beautiful journey for me.
Welcome into the room, Ryan Boland. It's awesome to have you with us today. Thank you.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool, Ryan, to see biodynamics and Demeter certified products gaining traction and gaining awareness in the space. Ryan works with Mercola Market, and they have a brand of Demeter certified products called Solspring. And when I first learned about that, it made me pause, because in a marketplace where we are used to packaged foods and even herbs and vitamins and stuff like that being how do I say this? With not a lot of nutrition mindfulness going into some of these products, it made my heart grow a little bit bigger, well, a lot bigger, when I saw, Dr. Mercola has always gone and leaned hard into very high quality products and very high quality ingredients. And so I've always appreciated that. And I've learned so much as a natural health practitioner about natural ways to build my immunity and to be healthy. And at the same time, when watching the journey of them going into including Demeter products and biodynamics into their branding and into a product line, that's a really big deal, because biodynamics has been, even though it's very popular in Europe, it's been very fringe in North America and very fringe in lots of different parts of the world, and been considered as like kind of woo and a little bit like, do I have to, Ryan said it once, he's like, do I have to dance. Well,
Let's
I will
make it
say
in the
dance
moonlight.
naked
Yeah,
under the moonlight.
yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, some people might, but you don't have to. What we're really learning with all the new science that's coming out and the validation of the nutritional value of the foods is that there is really something magical to biodynamic practices and the incredible quality of food that biodynamics grows. So I'm excited to learn why, like you're more about your journey. We already got to have a conversation with you, Ryan, about a little bit about it, but I'm looking forward to diving it into a little bit more.
I mean, why is biodynamics finally coming to the forefront? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm just saying I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to diving it into a bit more.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
didn't really ask a question yet. I was just saying, like, it's so good
Yeah,
to
no,
have
I'm very excited too because this is a long journey for us here at Mercola. We started it about 6 years ago. We really decided let's get into regenerative agriculture and biodynamics, and there's a lot to it, and it really was not just fringe. It didn't exist here in America, basically, and in Europe it's massive, as you know. So I'm excited to share our story, and we've had a lot of success with it. And there's so much that is coming, I feel, and we're, the people are starting to notice, and we need that. That's the only way we're going to make this change. So,
What is it? Like you are a very, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're well networked. You have a lot going for you professionally and probably personally too. And I'm so curious, what made you choose to work with the Mercola team and what's your interest in health and well-being?
I actually come from, before I worked at Mercola, I was in the private label supplement world.
Mhm.
And one of my largest customers was Mercola. And to be honest, where it started for me, what actually made me catch the bug and why I wanted to work for Mercola was back in, was it 2000? Back when the non-GMO movement really started with Prop 37. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I was working with Mercola, and I was at Expo West at an event, and I was hanging out with Steve Rye, our CEO, and Ronnie Cummings from the Organic Consumer Association, who's a great activist in the world of food, and it came up on the screen that Whole Foods was going to require a labeling of GMO foods. And I was like, wow, look at this, and they were all slapping each other five because they were a big part of that. Mercola actually gave the $1 million of his own money to get the signatures, to get that non-GMO movement really going in California. And they were really, really powerful behind it. And I actually sat down, I'm like, how do I get involved in this, And I was already doing business with them, and then I decided to make a career change. And I was like, I want to go work in Mercola. I want to be on the forefront of things, and they gave me that opportunity, and here I am today, 8 years later.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Yeah, it was great to be
It's
part of something real, something that you really made change and you stood
yeah.
up for what you believed in. And you don't see that. And everyone says, I want to do something I believe in. And I got to do that. And then I could tell you the story again into regenerative agriculture, but they let us run wild with it. And we did.
Tell us about it.
So, basically 6 years ago, what people don't realize, from an education standpoint, Dr. Mercola in 2009 started doing interviews with like Joel Salatin and for years it's been Gabe Brown, he's been Will Harris. He's been going to their farms and meeting with them. We do videos. You can go back and look at them. They're incredible. We've been talking about regenerative agriculture. He was involved with every little aspect of regenerative agriculture through the education platform of our newsletter. And over the years, it was like, okay, let's get into this, because nobody was really getting into it. So in 2017 or 16, I had a chance to go to an event where the Rodale Institute released a whole aspect behind carbon being pulled from the air through regenerative agriculture, where the Don Yeshiva was there, and we released that study through that climate march in 2006, 2014, was it? Actually 14. And you know, it was really interesting because the world was really getting into, or I'm sorry, there was a small group of people within the industry that really wanted to get this out there. And, you know, Dr. Bronner's group was there. There was a lot of really, really, really progressive companies in that room that day. And we were like, okay, let's get into regenerative agriculture. And one day in 2017, I think it was, I had the opportunity of meeting the executive director of Demeter USA. They came to an event. And I said, you know, we would love to do biodynamics. We think that is the way that we should bring regenerative agriculture to the market if we have that opportunity. And, you know, basically the executive director said, you know, everybody says that, Ryan, you know, but nobody ever does it. I think Whole Foods was trying to do it at the time, and they were really put in effort, but it didn't work out. So I was like, we want to do it. We can do it. We put her, you know, we stand behind what we do. And she goes, if you want to do it, you got to get on a plane in 2 weeks. You got to fly to Germany and go to Biofach, and I will introduce you to the best biodynamic farmers in the international stage. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And I'll tell you what, I got introduced to some great people, got to learn so much. And that really started our journey into regenerative agriculture. We started with food. Now, Mercola is not a food company. We've always just been really a supplement company, okay? So I was like, at first I was like, let's do supplements. It wasn't that easy. I mean, what are we going to do? You know, so we really couldn't figure it out. Where do we do it? Supplements. So we're like, let's start a food line. Call it Solspring. We'll make it biodynamic foods only. We'll try to build out a grocery store for people to buy regenerative agriculture, biodynamic, 100-year-old standard. So it's proven, it's been around for a long time. We're not going to try to recreate any wheels here. And we're going to go and we're going to do our best to build this into something. And I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of people that tell me I was crazy. Actually, told me there's not possible. Nobody wants this. It's, you know, no one's going to want anything to do with this. And we were like, okay, well, that was 6 years ago. Well, today we have 75 certified Demeter products. Okay. We have, by the end of this year, we probably will have over 100. Okay. We have so many coming at you. And what we've been able to do is we took that international stage. And yes, that's where we started. We built out tomato sauces and pastas from Italy. We built out, you know, we started working with the Seacom group out of Egypt, which is an incredible group. There's so many great things to offer. And then what that did was it started this snowball effect where we needed to start building out an American group. Right? How do we do this in America? How do we bring the USA to the stage, not just by selling products from the international side? How do we make products here? So we started going to our manufacturers and saying, I need you to get biodynamically certified. And, you know, they're like, what? I don't even know what that is, you know? And I'm like, well, it's been around for 100 years. You should get to know it. And you know what? It's going to be here to stay, and we're going to be doing a lot, and we need you guys to get certified. So we actually had to send the certifiers out ourselves. It's fine. We did it. We started getting our manufacturers certified. And then what we started doing is started going, okay, what can we do now? We got all these food products. Okay, let's start talking to farmers. Can we get more food products and start putting it into these manufacturers that are now biodynamically certified? And we're like, okay, this manufacturer can make this. Okay, we can get crop. We can bring it into this manufacturer. We can make this product. Okay, we can go over here. And then we said, what about supplements now? We got the foods going. So then I don't know if you guys know, but we went to the Demeter International stage and talked to them and got a Demeter International standard for supplements actually approved. And we started making biodynamically certified supplements. And then it stemmed into us doing organic textiles. So what we did was we're like, okay, what can we do with the organic textiles? And then we started talking to our farming. We have like a 200 plus family farms in India that do organic cotton for us. We went and we paid for them to be upgraded into biodynamic, trained, seeds, everything. And we took our entire supply chain for clothing, sheets, towels, clothing, and had that upgraded into biodynamic as well. And what's interesting is a lot of people don't understand is where this progressed is now there's even a seal called biodynamic Demeter in conversion, right? So what it's allowing farmers to do in the future here, and it's kind of a new concept, and it's amazing, is we can go to a farmer, say, we want to take you organic and make you biodynamic. We want to transition your land. And in between that transition, we're going to have a seal that says, this is Demeter in conversion. You're converting that land over to biodynamic practices. And then after 2 years, you get the actual biodynamic seal. Okay. And we've been able to do that in our clothing. So next year that will have a biodynamic full seal, but right now is an in conversion seal. But this has allowed us to talk to US American farmers, right? Because now you go to a farmer, it's like, it's going to take me 2 years to do that. I don't have time to, what am I going to do with my product? Well, I'm going to take your product, I'm going to sell it in conversion, right? It's a huge difference and a huge game changer in how we're going to make change here.
Super powerful, Ryan. I'm curious. So how many years ago was Solspring launched?
I think it was 5. Well, we started playing around with it 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
And so we know that when something first launches, it can, I mean, sometimes every once in a while something launches and it's to the moon, right? There's like this massive.
That didn't happen.
I'm just guessing. So I'm curious, where that growth edge is at for Solspring right now.
It's actually the fastest growing line we have here at Mercola. All right. By far number one. All right. It's not just that, it's on the retail side. We just started getting large retailers bringing us in because the consumer is starting to notice. Okay. And that trajectory is just going higher and higher and higher. And what we're seeing is we've had 5 years. You know what we've had 5 years to do? We've had 5 years to educate. All right. Education is key. And we are a direct to consumer company. That's what people don't realize. That's what we are first. We are in retail as well, but we're direct to consumer. So we've been able to educate our consumers on what biodynamics is and how it's different than what you're buying today. Why is it better? Right. It's better in so many different ways. So
how is it different?
Well,
like
different
how
than
is it
organic?
from organic? How is it different from organic, conventional, regenerative? Well, we'll get to that other question. How is it different from organic?
I mean, from organic, I would start off with the fact that number one is the word regenerative, right? This product, right? Biodynamic Farms regenerates your land. Okay. All right. Well, that is done by making a farm an actual ecosystem. So within biodynamic farms, a farm must be looked at as an ecosystem. You must have biodiversity, okay? You must have no pesticides, no herbicides, no insecticides, zero. You can't have anything. You must have animals must be used within your system, okay? Now, within organic, I would say organic, we do a lot of organic products, but organic is where I would say is the lowest we want to go from our food side, okay? And they do in organic, they allow monocropping, right? They also allow pesticides and insecticides to a certain level, not a lot, but they're still allowed at certain levels, okay? And in the biodynamics, I think you're here, okay? It's 100-year-old standard, and it is looking at that farm as an ecosystem where nature is what helps it run, okay? Now, what does that do? That helps you regenerate your soil, which helps you make better food. And what we don't understand is the best tasting food I personally feel I ever had was biodynamic food. And I use an example in our last interview is some of the best chefs in the world. Where do they get their food? They get their food from biodynamic farms. Daniel Barber, Blue Hill at Stone Barns, that restaurant is being fed by a biodynamic farm. He puts a carrot on a stick because that carrot is the most delicious carrot you ever had, right? Because it's been farmed in that rich soil. Now, what a lot of people don't realize too is this is the regeneration of soil is building that organic matter and so on and so forth, but it's also regenerating flavor, right? You make a better flavor over time. All right. Our olive oils from 100-plus-year-old olive trees. They've been there forever. They just get better because that soil is getting more rich, right? We're not degrading the soil. You're not taking from the soil. You're not just doing one crop that is degrading the soil and then that runoff is running into your water, polluting. It's a whole nother system. And that's why it is sustainable for the future and can feed everybody, because I hear that all the time. Oh, how can you feed everybody? Let me tell you something. I want to know where the soil for a conventional GMO crop I want to know where that's going to be in 100 years. What's that going to look like? Tell you that. I tell you that some of the farms that we're working with, the fifth generation farms, they've been doing the same thing for a very long time. And you know what? It is the best food you've ever had, and they are still running a very good system that just constantly works.
Hmm. What excites you the most about amplifying biodynamics in Demeter?
Me, I think it's the changing of a system is needed. It's here. It has to happen. I think that's why people are noticing. All right. I have kids. I have a 10 and 11-year-old boys. Okay. I want them to eat different. Okay. We know our systems are broken. We know our food is not good, that a lot of these young kids are eating today, right? That the conventional system is scary. I think it's straight up scary. I brought up the GMOs, or I mean, look, glyphosate, think about everything that's going on with the food today. And it is downright scary at this point. I mean, now it's fake food. It's not even, it's fake this, fake that. And everyone's like, oh, that's great. And really, is it great? What about soy? What about growing something where we're bringing life to the land too, and actually providing the best food possible? And that's what it really excites me, is I want to provide the best food for my family. I think everybody should think that way, because that is sustainable for the way we all should live life, and how our families can all survive in the long run. So
That's really powerful. I think it does. I think what you just did there right now is you've connected with us with our hearts, Ryan, right? Like you've just like brought us right into our core of what's important.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think the future needs to be us looking at good quality food as more important than people think. It's what you put in your body. It's what you put in your kids' bodies, right? It's just your family, your friends, the future of our land. And the more we degrade it, the worse it gets. And we're worried about feeding people. Well, what happens when you destroy the land? You can't feed anybody. And no one's thinking like that, I feel like. But it is communicating. I think the younger generation is starting to look at where do we go different than organics? I feel like people's parents are eating organics now, right? I feel like the new generation is like, you know what do I want to do something different. What's next for me? And regenerative food, regenerative agriculture, and biodynamics specifically. And that's why we went there. I need to be clear on here. I think there is some other good standards, but I still feel that biodynamics is at the highest. And why? It's a proven standard. Okay. It's been around for 100 years. Okay. And I say the word monocropping. Someone said to me, like, what about grapes? Grapes is a monocropping. And I know that grapes is a big biodynamic. I was just talking to my biodynamic farming. We have a biodynamic farmer that works for us, and he's absolutely brilliant. All right. And he works with us because he helps us go to farmers and helps us transition, not just work on transition in land and doing that in conversion. And he actually helps us bridge that gap so we can work through transparency with farmers. Okay. And he said to me today, he goes, what's interesting is, two of the major grape farmers that he works with that do wine, they grow olive trees, right? So they do agroforestry, right? I mean, there's a great farmer, Mark Shepard. He wrote a great book, Restorative Agriculture. You can read. I've been to his farm actually with our biodynamic resource. He does hazelnuts, but then he does intercropping. So he's got asparagus running down. There's just so much. So people are doing that when they're doing the grapes. So when the grapes can't be picked, their workers are picking figs. They're picking olive trees. And that is providing that biodiversity. And that farmer now has multiple different crops to sell, multiple different items to go into, multiple different markets, right? Not just one.
Yeah. And I've also seen when the opportunity hasn't been there necessarily to have like that diversity of like olive trees or figs or whatever it is, but the intercropping of different herbs underneath the grapevines, and the different cover crops in between the rows, and the sheep running down and munching on whatever is planted there for them to munch on. So there's this ecosystem of inclusiveness and diversity and life.
Exactly. the ecosystem, and that's the key. And that's the deal with what's different here is you build an ecosystem that just constantly is turning and living off of each other. And what you do is symbiotic. It becomes just one beautiful thing that produces. And you know what? It produces into the soil, which produces into the food.
Mhm. Another certification that's gaining a lot of traction is ROC, Regenerative Organic Certified. And I'm just wondering, what's the difference from that, and why would you choose biodynamics personally? Just as
I mean, personally, ROC is not something I really ever looked into. We made our decision so long ago. I feel like ROC is more of a newer certification. Okay, that has been created with, I think they're doing a great job. I mean, they've created a good standard, but our goal was to go with something that's we felt is our best option. Why? 100 years. I mean, that's why. So we never even looked at it. We just said, we're going to make this decision. This is the way we want to go. There's so much knowledge out there in regards to biodynamics. The Europe has been doing it for 100 years. I mean, it is okay. Why can't we do it here at a larger scale? We can, and that is why we chose biodynamics. And the ROC was kind of getting created as we already made that decision. And we're proud of that decision, to be honest with you. I mean, I think ROC is great, and regenerative agriculture, I think it's, even obviously a step above organic. I think it's regenerative. I think it's a great standard. But I think biodynamics is been around for so long. I mean, I don't think we need anything else. There you go. Well, let's follow these practices. Let's keep it very simple to what we've know works for a very long time.
And I just want to speak to there's a bit of a misnomer, misunderstanding about organics, because I feel like they get thrown under the bus and not called regenerative. And I would argue that a lot of organic farmers are regenerative. And so I just want to honor that journey of the organic farmer. And yes, organic farming is kind of getting a bit greenwashed and taken into from and kind of massaged into different things than the grassroots movement had it. And because where we are with biodynamics is where we were with organics, maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years
I agree with you. And the one thing you mentioned is I think these large corporations have done done a tough job to organics. Personally, I think they've heard it a little bit. But I can tell you that going to small organic farms, okay, because we're doing our best to try to transition land and getting crops right. I mentioned this to you in the last interview, that they are doing basically biodynamics. The tweak, it's only like 10% more work it was, because these farms are really almost basically regenerative already. They're doing a great job. They love their land. They're doing it, it's just they're not getting that credit. And I think on the larger scale, sometimes, the standards have been, bringing in hydroponics and there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. So I agree with you, and I've seen it firsthand. And I have to say, organic farmers are also have a regenerative aspect, and they are doing their best to do that as well.
Yeah. And I think we are standing on the foundation of all the work that the organic farmers have done for the last, I don't know, maybe 84, well, I guess 50 decades, because I'm 50 years old. And I know for sure my parents were part of those grassroots of getting us to where we are today. So just really having a deep amount of gratitude for the advocacy and the heart that they poured into the education and the agency of creating a space for these types of conversations that we're having today, because I don't know if we'd be here today if they weren't.
So true. There. So
Yeah.
true.
So on that note, Ryan, what do you feel is the biggest hurdle of bringing Demeter, or even I'll say biodynamics, because just to help clarify, do you want to speak to what the difference between Demeter and biodynamics is? Can you speak to that?
Demeter is a certification body of biodynamic farming. Okay, so if you want to become a biodynamic farmer, you must go to Demeter. They would have to come out to your farm, inspect your farm, and then certify you as a certified farming entity of Demeter, right? And then it's like just like USDA organic, but it's a different seal. Same thing with a product. So the thing is now if you would take the food that you buy from a biodynamic farmer, Okay, you literally have to have everything through this chain, through the supply chain, must be certified as well. So the processor, the manufacturer, even us as a company need to be certified Demeter, and then it must go to the certifying body to be certified Demeter biodynamic.
Thank you. And so there are a lot of biodynamic farmers who aren't certified Demeter, and
Correct.
there is a movement towards possibly even certifying biodynamics without the Demeter seal. So, and at the same, pardon me, and at the same time, when a person is practicing biodynamics, they are really practicing, like Ryan says, at a very, very high conscious level of working regeneratively and holistically with their farm and with their land. And the verification of Demeter, just, it means they have inspectors. It means they have like a lot of mindfulness, and a lot of verification goes into making sure that the product you're getting is what you are getting. So that's kind of where the certification comes in. Ryan, what do you feel or see as the biggest hurdle right now on taking biodynamics to that next level of awareness, and just like for it just like gain mass traction in the marketplace?
We need to get people to buy it. Where it is now we pay the farmers more money, right? Because they're going to get more money for the crop. I mean, that's one reason why a farmer should do this and think of this. However, what that means is I got to charge more money, right? So the only way to get this to the consumers and get them to buy it is by educating them on why it is better. And does it taste better? Yes, you need to get it in their hands, because when they taste it, it does have, the flavor profiles are incredible. It has continuity, right? You want to talk about a marketing term. You have somebody to try something, they're going to come back for it, right? That is so incredible. I'm like, yeah, it is incredible. It may be $2 more, but it's absolutely incredible. And it's healthy for your family. That's what's been the hardest time over these 5 years. How do we communicate that it is a little bit more money, but it's better for everybody? It's not just better it's also better for the farmer, right? Because these farmers are making more money. So this helps us almost break that system where, people want cheap. A lot of that cheap, and I'm not even talking about organics, I'm talking about the conventional world, is subsidized, right? That is cheap and being subsidized, so it's as cheap as possible. You know what? If you want to make real food, you want to make good food, you want to make quality, it's going to cost a little more money. It's inevitable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's interesting. And people in this room probably have experienced this. We had a young man over for supper last night, and he's 15 years old, hockey player, super active. And we made hamburgers and from a local farm that we get our meat from. And he sat back, and I had my daughter and him, they made their own buns for the burgers and stuff like that. And he sat down after he could barely finish his burger, and he's like, oh, I can't believe I'm full. Like, and so, and I just kind of sat back and smiled. I was like, yeah, it's interesting, right? When it's interesting, and that's what people's experience is when they eat really nutrient dense, rich.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, they fill up faster. You don't need as much, and there's a satiation that happens.
And it's so enjoyable, right? I mean, I have my boys, I give them, a lot of our products, and they'll be like, oh, this is good. I'm like, yeah, because it's, you're not talking about some, $1 jar of something that is filled with, to be honest with you, I come from the food processing world, to put like corn syrups in to thicken it. There's all kinds of stuff that can be with a tomato sauce, or you don't know what you're getting sometimes. And when you eat something so rich, so clean, so pure, and you're like, wow, what is this? It's like, yeah, grandma made that sauce. I always say 90 years ago, and put it in the basement. You pulled out a jar out of the basement, and that's what we're selling, right? We're selling that true farm quality food that we all wish we could eat it, that from a restaurant, but you bring it to your table at home by buying it at the supermarket.
Mm-hmm. My question just absolutely skimmed my brain.
Okay.
No, so we were talking, you were talking about we were talking about the nutrition density. Oh, I know. So one of the things you said is we have to get the word out. We have to get people wanting it and talking about it more. So how do we do that?
You know, I'm telling you that I've run into this. It's got to be grassroots, right? So, I mean, I'm personally going on in Florida, west where we are. I'm going to start going around Florida and start doing talks to all these small independent grocery stores and educating them on regenerative agriculture, what biodynamics is, what's interesting about this food. I'm going to bring the food so they can try it. We need to get out there and educate the people in the stores. So when someone walks in, be like, hey, you got to try this. It's got to be grassroots. It's got to be the old fashioned way of doing it, because we're not going to do it at a large stage right now, because it's very difficult, right? Now, we as a company are allowed to educate to a consumer. Our direct to consumer has been fantastic. We actually do education email campaigns where we'll send 4 emails of education to somebody over a 4-week period, and then we'll be like, and you can, now it's on sale if you want to buy it, because we're like, we got to teach people first. They need to understand this. They need to see why this is so important. And how do we do that out in the field? And we just got into one large natural retailer, a big one, and what we're going to do is we're gonna go out and demo as crazy as possible, because like I told you, flavor matters. And when someone tastes something that tastes so good, I got to get it in. I got to get them to try it. Right. So that's going to be our plan for the larger side. We're just going to, but you have to spend the money, and it's not that easy for people to do. So it needs to be grassroots. We need to have boots on the ground, be like, you need to try this. We need to get it into people's hands and understand it's not just flavor. You're actually making change here in the food systems. And the only way to do it is to start small and build off of that on the building blocks. Just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. We're not going to start from the top and work its way down. It doesn't work that way. And people need to learn that. We're not going to, these massive corporations, I said this to you before, they greenwash. They absolutely greenwash. I think years ago at Expo West, there was General Mills had a limited edition macaroni and cheese for Annie's. It was called limited edition because it was a collector's item. Okay, we need to make sure people stick to this, and we need to bring it. And that's the only way we can do it, is on a grassroots effort. From the bottom up, we all need to work together. And I would say to everybody, go out and try to buy regenerative products. You don't even need to buy Mercola products, or not even biodynamic if you can't find it. Regenerative. Try to start buying so we could support these brands, because that's my problem too, is I can't sell all the crop that people want to sell me. I can only do so much. We need more people in the game.
Yes, true. And I think there's a couple of things there, if I may just summarize. One is it's kind of counterintuitive to have a packaged company on the Soil Summit, because we're really about grassroots and like growing your own food and growing your food for your community. And we have Solspring on the Soil Summit. And the reason we made this choice is because, well, for a few reasons. One is we are deeply grateful and appreciative to the work that Solspring and Dr. Mercola is doing in the space of educating people about regenerative agriculture and biodynamics specifically. And secondly, if a person is going to consume packaged foods, then we want to open people's eyes and hearts and ears, and understanding that there are other choices available, and you can start telling your friends about them. So that's a really powerful piece to notice. And then the other one is the amount of support that you're giving to farmers. And I know you can't support every farmer, and maybe there are certain products that you haven't expanded into. And at the same time, you have your feet on the ground. You're working with biodynamic farmers and organic farmers, and maybe even conventional farmers, to help them transition. So that's super, super powerful, Ryan. And then the other piece is I'm going to go back to the education, which is, you're so passionate and so good about educating people. And I just want to invite everybody here in the room and who's watching this to reflect on how you might be able to spread the word about what you're doing more mindfully and more openly in a way that invites people to be curious about how their food is grown. And I think, Ryan, you said it so well. It's a big part. Sometimes it's in the flavor. I remember when we went to farmers markets, still go to farmers markets, and we would just hand out carrots, cucumbers, beans, carrots. And people would walk away. They'd be like, yeah, thanks for that. And then they'd come back, they'd be like, I need to get some of your carrots because Joey has never eaten a vegetable in his life, and he asked for another one of those.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It tastes better. I mean, flavor matters when you want to make quality food, right? I mean, and I love food. I have a deep love of it. So
yeah, and you probably can verify this. Tad Hargrave was one of our speakers for the Soil Summit, and he talked about really finding a community or a hub that you can serve, and he really encourages people to be visible in different ways. So host a farm dinner. Can you speak, does your tribe hang out at the local library? Maybe you can do a free talk there, or maybe you can go talk at the grocery store about what you're doing and how you're growing things. Or maybe you're part of a church or a religious organization, and they have gatherings, and you can educate them about how you grow food and where it comes from. And so those are just some of the things that came to mind as you were talking about education. I just want to put that challenge out there to people.
I bring stuff everyone. They always make fun of me. Everyone always makes fun of me. I bring stuff everywhere. I'm like, try this chocolate bar. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, just trust me, try it. It's really good. You've never had any chocolate like this before in your life. It's biodynamic chocolate. It's one of a kind. Give it a flavor. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's like, why not? Let's, I talk about it. I perfect examples. We have dinners, my wife and I, with a lot of friends, and we'll make biodynamic pasta done right, bronze cut, that has one ingredient, durum semolina wheat, coming from biodynamic wheat, is absolutely amazing. Right. And that flavor profile will blow your mind. It almost has a sweetness to it. And people are like, what? Why does that taste so different? I'm like, that is what good food should taste like. Right. It has different flavor to it. It's almost not the same. It's not what you're used to. I use that with olive oil as well. I mentioned to you that, our product development staff came and they're like, I don't think anyone's going to like this olive oil. I'm like, are you kidding me? This olive oil is the best olive oil I've ever had in my life, because people are not used to real olive oil in America. They're used to fake olive oil because it's been adulterated, right? It's terrible. But if you go to Europe and you taste a really high-end olive oil, it has this little bit of astringency on the back end. It's almost they call it a polyphenol drip. And that is real olive oil. That is what it's supposed to taste like. And you know what? Now that's one of our top selling products, because it's one of the best olive oils you've ever had. And it's really been around, multi-generational, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's what's neat about those products too is a little goes a long ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does, right? So Ryan, how about we jump into some questions? We have some questions.
Sure, absolutely.
And I just want to invite everybody here to put your questions into the Q&A or into the chat. We'd love to hear them and support you on your journey, whether it's about biodynamic farming or marketing, or maybe even what's coming next for Mercola. So, okay, so we have a comment from, I wish I knew if it was Jean or Jean. They're from Canada, and they said biodynamics also has a healing of the soil as well as community of diversity as a basic principle of cosmos of life. And I thought that was a really powerful statement to share.
It's true. That is true. They have multiple different principles. Yes.
Yeah, so it goes so far beyond the land, and we have tons of different sessions in the Soil Summit speaking to that, day 1 and day 2 especially. And they also say being a biodynamic student and practitioner since 1991, it might be a bit of a weird question. They say, not sure if it makes sense. At every organic conference, we raise the question of why do we who we are growing food that life energy has. This is a hard question for me to read. Sorry, I just need to reread it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think what they're asking is, at every organic conference, we raise the question of why are we growing food that has life energy, and how do we prove our product with labels or certifications or whatever. So How do you prove that?
So what's interesting is there's something that we're doing. John Fagan, you guys I don't know if you ever hear of John Fagan before? John Fagan's the one that was able to find the GMO, okay, the molecule, and allowed the non-GMO project to actually test for Monsanto's GMOs. Yes, he's the one that the non-GMO project came from him. So he created something called HRR Lab. So one thing that we wanted to do is, okay, let's look at biodynamics. Let's look at these products. And what we're starting to do is there's a new standard called Tested Clean, where they test for I think over 200 plus pesticides plus glyphosate in all of the products to make sure that what we're saying, are these actually clean? Is it there? Are there pesticides is there any contamination? Is there, and we are actually going to start using that program. And we're starting with our tomato sauces, pastas, and we're going down the line. And we're thinking that's going to be able to even show people, we can even test and show how clean this is, right? It's going to verify it. Now, from a nutrient standpoint, I think if that's what they're asking, how we're going to determine the nutrients versus others, I think that's something we all are having to look at more and more. And that's a goal is, do we compare products? Do we test? How do we do this? So that's something that's for the future here that I think every brand is looking at. I think it's like kind of like the holy grail actually right now.
Yeah, I think there's a few different companies working on some tools to do that.
Yeah, there's, but you always hear these people are doing this and then it didn't work, but yes, how do you just do nutritional testing? But the problem is to do nutritional testing, it's hard to do lot to lot, so expensive. So how do we do it? How do we make it work?
Yeah, and our traditional nutritional testing is not necessarily what we're looking to test today in nutrient dense food. So it's quite different. Some people are using bricks testing because of more sugar content.
Yeah, well, that's a lot like the wine. Listen, they say that biodynamics can raise the bricks level by 1% within the grape, right? Which is amazing because now you make better wine because you have more sugar content. And that's a beautiful thing.
So that might be a place to start if you're curious about that.
Yeah, you can look at that. Maybe a tomato is you're going to have more sugar content, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And they also go on to say, yes, marketing is available and vital, yet the weirdness of biodynamics, it has so many rules and regulations that as a farmer, it can become overwhelming. So if we're aiming for local foods and not to export, we need more homestead and local producers, CSA and farmer market type of practices. So with all the rules being overwhelming, why and what can be done to simplify the practice of biodynamics and just embodying it more in our farming practices?
So one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the biodynamic community has created the Fellowship of Prep Makers, which I mentioned last time. And the Fellowship of Prep Makers are broken down into the West Coast, Midwest, and the East Coast. And why is that important? Because they keep it decentralized so that we don't run into another issue where something becomes a big centralized system, which never goes well for anybody. Now, what they do is you can call them up and you can buy these preparations, because the rules are really tied to more than anything is the preparations. I mean, there is animal standards as well, which is part of it, but the preparations are very difficult to do. And I think it scares a lot of people. And I've learned that because when we sat down with farmers, they were like, how am I going to do these, preparations? We're like, well, what if I tell you can buy them, and you can buy them from people that really know how to do it. And the horns, the gentleman that works with us, he sells the horns, and he does, he buries them and does the whole process through the seasons, and you could buy the horns directly from him. So you can have everything purchased to make it a little bit easier, so you don't have to sit there and stuff bladders of a stag with yarrow and all these different things. You can buy those to help with your your farming practices. I think that is huge. I think that allows people to really focus on what they're good at in their land and their farming, and let the prep makers, you can buy it from. So
that's awesome. If you're looking for preparations, because making the preparations can be a very overwhelming part, as Brian said, right around the world, you can find different biodynamic associations that make preps and make them available to gardeners and to farmings, and for really low barrier costs. Some of them, even if you're part of the association, which sometimes only costs $25 a year, you actually get gifted the prep. So it's very low barrier in entry, and that way with biodynamics. And biodynamic farmers are really generous in sharing information and stewarding and mentoring and holding your hand there, there's a comment in the space here. It says, people of the past practice, quote, biodynamics each and every day, but didn't give it a name. They knew, loved, and respected the energies inside the soil. Now that you've given a name, please make it a movement to heal the earth and save the soil, but please don't make it a high end and take it away from the common person. May the biodynamic agriculture products reach every hungry child. And, MK, I really I feel you on that. And I agree fully with you on that. And that's one of the reasons we decided to amplify biodynamics and Korean natural farming at the Soil Summit, because there's a lot of different things we could have amplified. And there's a lot of great practices. And we chose biodynamics and Korean natural farming because they're both low barrier and because anybody can practice them. And there's not a huge cost to practice them. They're like grassroots. And the Demeter certified products, there is more of a cost to be certified, and maybe there is more of a cost to the end products. And that's a different part of the conversation. And so if Ryan, you want to speak to that a little bit more.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. These tomato sauces, when I said they're a little more expensive, do you think I'm not talking about super expensive, by the way. I think, you know what, I'll tell you right now, I will tell you that Mercola right now, you could go buy a tomato sauce. And this is interesting because if you think about what you're buying right now, maybe within a store, okay. I got coconut oil, 32 ounces only costs $19.97, and that's biodynamically certified, right? So that it's not as more expensive as you think, all right? It's under $10 for the tomato sauce even, right? So, like a bottle of Rayo's or something like that, which they consider amazing, is like, $9, $10 on the shelf. We're not saying that we're this much higher. It's still affordable. And I need everyone to know that this is still affordable stuff. Okay. It's just not going to go compete with a ragu. All right. I'm not going to compete with them. I'm not going to make it. Right. It's going to be, when I mean higher end, I mean, it's high quality, but we're doing our best to bring the prices to where they need to be too. We have to think that way, or this is not going to work. That's where I've been trying to get to, is it's not just the flavor profile. We can't sell it too high because I can't get it in people's hands. So perfect example is our coffee. We have the best coffee. It comes out of Brazil. It's the highest rated coffee I have. You could get. It's absolutely delicious. The coffee prices went through the roof because it's a commodity. It hurt us. We had to raise our price, but now we're trying to get prices down. But not just that, we found some other suppliers that we're working with, and we're working with different farmers now. And we're like, you know what, let's work with all the farmers. And we use different options and try to bring the price down so we can get it to people and get it in people's hands. Because let me be honest, you could go and you can have a ton of products, but if they're not affordable within anybody's budget, no one's going to buy it. It doesn't matter. So is it high quality? Yes. Is it high priced? Okay. Some of them are higher priced than others, but they're not crazy. They're not like, they're not like you think. I implore you to check it out. Check out what we sell. You don't need to buy anything. You can see what I'm talking about. Some of these items are still there,
Yeah. And your market is different. Like it's just a different packaging and a different market. And the purpose of this conversation is to amplify the Solspring brand and its availability, and to amplify the consumer demand for it, and to amplify, when I speak about the high end, MK, I'm talking about the high end of nutrition, the high end of like nutrient dense food landing on the tables and in the tummies of people worldwide, and like the children that you're talking about. Biodynamics, there's organizations in Africa, and we've amplified them in Heart and Soul magazine and around the world, who are stewarding people to grow food biodynamically for their communities. And it's for the sole purpose of their communities. And then they're turning around and doing some packaging like what Mercola is doing to their bigger communities. So I'm so grateful that you made that comment, so we could just presence all the different moving parts of what's happening, and hold like an open and vulnerable heart and a lot of tenderness for all the different spaces that biodynamics and regenerative agriculture can serve, because it's really about serving all, not just one or them or the other. Sarah has a good question. She says, what do you think is the main reason consumers are not noticing biodynamic products and willing to make the switch?
I'm going to go back to that word education. I feel like people understand this more, but I can go into circles of friends and be like, do you know what regenerative agriculture is? Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm like, do you know what biodynamics is? No, I have no clue what that is either. I'm like, okay, all right, let me explain it to you, and you explain it like, wow, that's really interesting, actually. I'm like, what if I tell you, you can, we say, richer soil, better food, stronger planet. I mean, there's so many different aspects to this, it's making the world a better place from a planet standpoint. And they just, people don't get it. And I think organics had this problem in the past too. And that's the one thing we all have to remember is organics took a long time to grow into what it is today. And I think regenerative agriculture is an infant. It's very young right now, and it's bubbling and it's growing. And that is the barrier of entry that we have, is nobody's talking about it in a true way. I feel like it's not getting the exposure it needs, and that's why grassroots is the key right now. We're not going to get what we think we're going to get. We need the grassroots efforts.
I agree 100%. Somebody just said in the chat, they said, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and this concept of biodynamics are not practiced here. And how can I stimulate this movement? I love that question. So I just went on really quickly and looked, and maybe Leslie, you can take a boo, but it does look like there's some biodynamic farmers in Trinidad and Tobago. So go ahead, Ryan.
It's funny, Ecuador and let's see, Ecuador, Dominican Republic, they have a massive biodynamic banana supply chain. I just could never do anything with bananas, but they came to us, and I couldn't do. We don't do anything with bananas. Try banana chips and all kinds of different things. But there is a large amount of bananas that are grown down in. There was actually a conference I went to, a biodynamic conference I went to about 3 years ago, and they had the biodynamic banana farmers, and there were so many of them, and they grow a huge amount of bananas that I think are really shipped to Europe, surprisingly. So I don't know if Trinidad, what else they would grow there. I'd have to check, but that's interesting.
It looks like cocoa, chocolate. It's chocolate, one of my food groups. I don't know. Anyone else can really.
I mean, that's a great crop to grow right now biodynamically. We are actually we have 4 biodynamic chocolate SKUs, and chocolate's a big thing for us, and we love. I mean, if you're growing biodynamic cacao in Trinidad, we come call us, talk to us. Honestly, it's cool. Really.
Yeah, it looks like there's some biodynamic farms down there who grow chocolate. I missed you. Okay, Charlone, please send us a message at connect@heartandsoulmagazine.com, and we'll do everything we can to support you to find some biodynamic organizations or farmers down there as well, if you'd like that kind of support. What other questions do you have for Ryan? It's a gift to have somebody in the room with his level of experience in marketing, and so just like and working with farmers at a grassroots level all the way up to working finally with product development, with getting the product out there, with education. So I'm really curious if you have any questions about marketing, or what are some of the words? I'm curious, what are some of the words that you find consumers respond really well to when we're talking about biodynamics?
That's a good question. Words wise, I would say it's hard to explain soil. So that's why the best food has been the way that we really, I think, try this, the best tasting food you ever had, right? That's our message. That's the message I think really communicates the best. Give this a try. It will blow your mind. Nutrition, better for you, good for your, clean food for you and your family. That's what communicates. Then yes, the soil, but you have to educate the soil. Why is soil important? Because they just look at it like, people like, I'm like, there's dirt in their soil, they can't communicate that. So really, I think the way I explained the way we do things is what we found to communicate over the last 5 years. Try the best food you've had, try the most nutrient dense, quality, high level food from a certification of farming that's done through nature and through an ecosystem with a, without all the pesticides, insecticides. That's what we found to communicate the best.
Flavor, taste them, get them to taste it, to try it.
Yeah, you got to get them to taste it, and that's not easy sometimes. You got to get them to buy it too, right? First, but
yeah,
that's why sampling and educating and like I said, to have these talks where we get to educate all the people in the aisles, right? They're the ones that you could walk in the store, you're like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Oh, you should give a try on this Solspring tomato sauce. It's grown in Italy. Where is it grown? We do our hemp. We do our hemp in America. We do our hemp in Wisconsin, in the driftless region, which is a great region for biodynamics, actually. And we do. We have it grown with a farmer that he's done. He's done it for a couple of years for us now, and we do biodynamic hemp. A lot of people don't realize this, actually. And then we mix it with black seed oil, but the black seed oil we actually we get that from Egypt, and we mix it with our biodynamic hemp here. We have little tinctures of biodynamic hemp right now, and we do that in Wisconsin, and it gets packaged in Wisconsin too.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Here's another good question. So cheap conventional food is often subsidized, which a lot of people aren't aware of. Most of the people in this room are, though. So why not subsidize biodynamic farms and farmers? That is the economics of a CSA concept. Pay it forward into the healing of food and with seed money for future crops. So why not, and how can we make that happen?
I think that gets into foreign policy within the governmental aspect, okay? And it is beautiful, and I would love that idea, but you got to remember what you're dealing with here. You're dealing with corporations that are, I'm sorry, they're scary, okay? You're talking about corporations that lobby and have total control over the subsidy systems, okay? They'll keep you out of things, and they have the power to do that, okay? This is where I meant on that top down aspect, right? The top is not going to let you really get there. They may say, we want to do this, but do they really want to do it? No, they always keep you out. So the subsidizing aspect of biodynamics and regenerative agriculture at a government level, I'm afraid to say, I think is basically, at this moment in time, I hate to use the word impossible, but from the scary world that you're dealing with, and these corporations that you're dealing with are on levels that are hard to believe, and their power is scary. So
Actually, it's staggering. I would like to give a couple shouts out to some, and here's some ideas for you. So one is on the marketing day of the Soil Summit, we have a number of different presentations. One is from Tad Hargrave, who I just mentioned, Marketing for Hippies. Brilliant conversation. He gives, I don't know, at least 5, maybe 6 different examples of different farmers and how they've really niched and serve their community. And then there's a number of different talks throughout the conference that talk about different styles of CSA. So it's not the traditional CSA. There's a couple on Saturday. And then if you listen to Walter from Finca Sagrada, who is a biodynamic farmer in Ecuador, he's been farming biodynamically for over 40 years. He talks about a CSSA, which is a community supported sacred site CSA, and that's where people pay a small amount of money every month to follow their story. So there's lots of different ways that people are creating their own funding. So that's one thing to really pay attention to and redream what is possible CSA is for you. And then there are some grants coming in through the pipeline through regenerative ag. So even if you're not, I agree with you, Ryan. The likelihood of getting like traditional funding and subsidies is like, climbing a rock face, but there are different things coming in. So connecting with your local organic associations they're probably more tapped in. Some of the biodynamic associations will also be tapped into government funding for those kinds of grants. And then also connecting with policy change makers like Regenerate America, and I only know them in America right now, who are advocating for policy change. And so getting involved and standing your ground and asking for things to be different, that's also a place you could put your energy.
I agree. You got to try, right? The only way you can do that is speak up. And I think you got a good point there. There's some organizations you can work with. So
yeah. And then also finding your own funding through different organizations, friends, that kind of thing. But I want to bring it back to you, Ryan. And I'm curious. I'm going to read some comments here in just a moment, but I'm curious, Ryan, what is on your heart that you most want people to know and understand about the Solspring brand and the Demeter certified products that you are making and amplifying, and the farmers that you're amplifying? What is it that you most want people to understand about why this work is so important to you? Like what keep going? What are you most excited about?
I mean, I would say that I think we're building a roadmap for change within this system at scale, even though it's grassroots, but it's still at a large scale. And we're showing that it can be done. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to show that we can do this as a larger company. We're not super big, but we're a decent sized company. You could get behind something, you can get it out there, you can make change to these systems. And you know what? The more and more we get noticed, the more and more we change it. And I'm proud of Solspring and knowing that we're getting that regenerative agriculture at the highest level with biodynamics, and we're bringing it to the forefront. And I think that this is truly going to make change, and we're in it for the long run. And that's the thing, is you can't give up. I mean, we've been doing this for 6 years. Okay. I'm hoping, I want to do this for 50 years if I can, right? And you know what? In year 50, we'll probably be a lot further along. Maybe there will be subsidies, hopefully. I don't know. But that's what it comes down to, is where can we go with this? This is the start. And it's been 6 years and still the beginning. And that's it. I'm just proud that Solspring has that heart. And that heart means we're not going to give up. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep bringing it to the people in a grassroots effort. And I don't know, that's how you make change. And I'm proud of it. That's what I'm proud of.
I am grateful and proud of you too, Ryan and Mercola. And this is the part that I just want to invite people to open up their hearts to, is even though Dr. Mercola is the Mercola market is a bigger company and Solspring is a bigger brand, the work that they are doing for the biodynamic space is something that we as grassroots farmers could never create on our own in a it just makes a wave of what we're doing so much more profound, because now when we're farming biodynamically and we're having those conversations, consumers are more likely to understand that and go, oh, I've heard of that. Oh, tell me more about what you're doing. So it's so much more than just the products that they're putting onto the shelf. The coffees and the chocolates, what chocolate's really important, let's be honest. And the spaghetti sauces and olive oils, it's the massive amount of education they're doing. So I really want to just lift you up so much, lift the Solspring brand up so much, and share the gratitude that we have for you in doing that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think it's going to be life-changing for the planet in so many different ways, and for humanity, and for farmers too, and being able to share their voice, and people being able to relate to regenerative farming in a deeper way, and biodynamics in a deeper way. Powerful.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I mean, I would say that, obviously you mentioned earlier, you usually wouldn't have a brand on here, but I think we're more than just a brand. I think the, education piece and how do we transition land, and how do we help farmers in this conversion aspect is so important. I think that's the key, right? Promoting your change of from organic to biodynamic. Like there's so much to this, and this is the beginning. This is just all starting, and I say everything's always a evolving system, and we're evolving a system right now that we created, and I just, there's so much to come. Just stay tuned.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And just drop a 7 in the chat if you have gotten something to open your heart, or a takeaway that that is just going to root you more deeply in what you're practicing, or maybe you thought about something or seen something a new way that you've never seen it before. You just show your gratitude to Ryan for coming in and spending his time with us. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. It's been really awesome. And I'd love to know what your takeaways are, if you have something that or have come to understand more holistically in the biodynamic space. So you can feel free to email us, take us on Instagram. Leslie, can you put their socials and their website up so people can know where to follow and find Solspring? Oh, you did.
Absolutely. I just put in the chat because they've also offered a discount code. So soil 23, it's 25% off a product, so that you can try it. And Solspring has also offered a box of products to one lucky participant. And I think I firmly believe the conversation is valuable without the prizes, but I do love a good prize. So Austin Gramlich, you are in the lucky seat. Check under your seat for that ticket. So so we will need to get some information from you. And yes, I will put the other socials in. It's wonderful to see you doing this on a larger scale, because throughout this soil summit, we've seen across the spectrum, some people are people are doing this in their yards, which I deeply value, just to improve the life for their family. And I deeply value that. And then we see the range, the small farmer, the market gardener, larger scale. So it's wonderful to see how you as Solspring are marketing the products too, because you have that foundation of this is a healthy product. This is excellent tasting, and it's good for the earth. So you're doing that on within the product of Solspring. So appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Thank
you.
you.
People are saying thank you so much for your learning experience. Your work is so needed, and we're getting private messages as well saying thank you, Ryan. Is there anything else, Ryan, that you want to leave us with before we wrap things up?
Oh, I just say I want to thank everybody for letting me speak and letting me bring to you what we're doing, and I hope to have a chance another day to talk more, because I think this is going to evolve, like I said. So thank you, everybody. And let's keep this movement going, and let's keep this momentum going, because the momentum is there. So
yeah. And I just want to amplify. One of the things I loved about you, Ryan, is you have a couple of really good videos. One in particular on YouTube. What's your YouTube channel? Mercola?
We should probably just Mercola. Yeah.
Is it Dr. Mercola?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Anyways, Ryan, look up his name and do biodynamics. I wish I had it to put in the chat. He does a really great job of explaining biodynamic farming. And so it just might give you some language to use when you're talking to people and explaining what you do, because I think sometimes that can be a barrier of knowing exactly what to say. And I think Ryan just captured things really well. So it might give you some more tools for your tool belt. Yeah. Ordering tomato sauce now. Yay. That's
My
awesome.
favorite's the tomato basil, just so you know.
Good to know. All right. Big love, everyone. Thank you so
All right.
much for joining us for the Soil Summit. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you.
you.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
And
And-
Austin, could you stay on for 1 minute? And Marie, are you available to stay on?
Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone who is still here that our
goodness.
sessions tomorrow are Gabby and Nicolette at the next day, right? It goes Gabby and
Yes.
Nicolette. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting. Two more really good sessions, and live eurythmy every morning, which is a beautiful movement meditation, which people are really enjoying and getting a lot from. So if you're able to join us live, that's awesome. And if not, we're putting the recordings on the live watch page or just in the membership area.
No, they'll be on both. They will be on both. So recordings of these live sessions will be available on the watch page and in the all access pass area. And if you're just hearing that term all access pass, that simply means that you get to keep access to all the recordings so that if you miss a day, you can you can watch it at your convenience. You can watch them as many times as you want. All access pass comes with downloadable audio recordings so you can listen on the go. A workbook with key takeaways and some challenges from the speakers. So many speakers have offered bonuses. So that's the all access pass. So this current week is free for participation, and that's the watch page. And then to keep it moving forward, that's the all access pass.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious with the people who are still in the room, who would value ongoing support, like an ongoing community that you met with maybe once a month or twice a month to just keep for support and for visioning and for deepening into your practices around regenerative farming and gardening. Just drop a 2 in the chat if that's something that you think you'd enjoy or benefit from, and or send us a note and let us know what you'd like to see. All right, good to know. Thank you. Because Leslie and I are working on putting something together that's going to be just special to help support this community more. And we would just really like to make sure that it's something that would be really meaningful to you and support you in exactly the way you best need to be supported. So we appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Awesome. So, and I love seeing so many of you in this live sessions every single day. It's kind of, I feel like I'm getting to know you.
know the community. This is fabulous.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So any questions, feel free to email us, connect@heartandsoulmagazine.com. And we would love to know what you're working on, what your biggest challenge is, and how we can best support you. So let us know.
Thank you.
You make yourself an amazing day. Big love.